Carol. We'll be quiet.
Okay. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome. I am Carol C.C. Miller, your positive life strategist, peace activator, and global hugger, coming to you with another episode of Embrace Your Life, where we're focused on heightening celebrations and lessening sorrows through a positive focus. And today I'm excited because I have a couple of guests with me that I've known Larry for several years, and I just recently met Jim, but we're going to be talking about positive change and making those changes in your own life. And they have several different programs that we'll be talking about to share with you on that. But before we get started and I introduce them, I always like to remind people, especially if you're new to me, that I am not a big believer in always or never. I've done things I said I would never do, so I kind of live on a scale of 0 to 100. Zero being always negative, 100 being always positive. In my daily practices and in my coaching, I work on staying in the 80 to 100% of positivity, of kindness, of love, and compassion. Fear visits me, doubt visits me, frustration visits me, but because of my practices, they don't live with me. They just come in and visit from time to time, and I shift it up to who I want to be and how I want to show up in the world. So, we're going to be talking with Jim and Larry today just about that. So, let me quickly give you the bio that Larry sent, and I'm sure you're going to learn a lot more about them as we talk. Jim and Larry are serial entrepreneurs, having started businesses from Arizona to Massachusetts. They are also passionate about improving their community and both sit on the board of Revitalize, both out of St. Louis for over 20 years, and has recently expanded to include Chicago, Phoenix, Kansas City, Los Angeles, and Melbourne, Australia. If you guys need me to go to Melbourne for any of your projects, just let me know. They each have had their own share of personal tragedies and have learned how to turn them around and find success from our failure. Welcome, welcome, gentlemen. Please share a little bit about yourselves. And if anyone has any questions on creating change in their life, Jim, you had just mentioned a project called America. I would love for either one of you to share what that's about. And welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Well, thanks for having us. I'll start if that's okay, Larry. I apologize about the background noise. We got into an area that was nice and quiet, and then a bunch of people came in that are not so quiet, but it's fine.
You
We'll go from there.
attracted the energy of a lot of people around you, gentlemen. They want to be in your space. So,
We always do. That's how it works. So it's a concept called Meraki, Meraki. We have a Facebook group, and the group is Meraki Life. So facebook.com/groups/ Meraki Life. And what Meraki is it's a way of living. And we were constantly asked, how are we always so happy? How are things always working out for us? And we started looking for a way to define the way that we lived our lives. And we started looking at words with strong origins, and we stumbled upon a word called Meraki. And what's unique about Meraki is, much like us, it's undefinable. It doesn't translate directly from Greek to English. So there's all kinds of various interpretations of what the translation means, but in short, the general consensus is you put your heart and soul into everything you do, and you leave a piece of yourself in every place you go. And that's what Meraki really stands for. So we created a Facebook group, and we're really starting to build that group and then turn it into an engagement group where people can come for support, where people can come to share their ideas, to talk about living their best life. And that's really what we're all about is, no matter what condition hits you, you can find the good in it, and you can find a way to turn it to your benefit. Larry, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, you did a great job, and thanks, Carol, for having us. I love what you said, Carol, about the negativities in life. They visit us, but they don't live with us. So I'm going to steal that from you because I like it and it fits for me. But yes, Meraki is one of the things that we focus on, and it's just, again, like Jim said, it's being present in whatever you do, so present that you're living and making the most of that moment in time.
and I love that. And that's one of the reasons that I talk about the negativity visits, because I think since I started Positive Focus and coaching on positivity, people think that I don't live in reality. And in fact, I absolutely do. And things come into my life that I are not necessarily things I want to have happen. But because I'm focused on finding the gem in that challenge or whatever. It makes it easier. It does not mean that life is perfect just because you're a positive person, but it does mean that you're going to go through your challenges a little easier if you focus on what you want rather than the focusing on what you
It does. And one of the concepts we have at the Jim and Larry team is something called the shifted reality, because people say that about me too, in that, like, well, Larry, you're not facing reality or you're not living reality. And how I respond to that is, your reality is like a buffet. There's many different things going on in your reality all at the same time. So you want to sift and sort through the choices and find the realities that are most pleasing to you, and then give your focus and your energy to that. I'll share with you an example. About 15 years ago, I was flat broke. I lost my home. I was homeless, depressed. Like, everything was wrong in my life. Any reality, quote unquote, that you would look at would be scary in and of itself. And I had all these concurrent scary realities going on. And I was living out of my car in Wisconsin, not knowing where I was going to eat or not knowing where I was going to sleep. And at that time of feeling all those fears, I noticed it was October, and I noticed how golden the leaves were. And they were absolutely, like, brilliant. And there was a lake nearby, and I could see the leaves reflecting from the lake. And it was so pretty. And at that moment, I felt better, because I was choosing to look at the reality of the beauty of the leaves. Yes, it was real that I had no money, and yes, it was real that I was hungry, but it was also real that I was surrounded by beauty. So I just focused on that. And one of the things that I teach, because I've learned it and lived it myself, is that you can't always change the condition, but you can change how you view the condition or how you interpret the condition. And once you've changed how you feel about the condition then changes. It cannot live in that same environment. So at that moment in time, even though my condition didn't change, I was still broke, I was still hungry, I felt so much better because I was focusing on the leaves and on the color. And you do it like minute by minute. So I'm not going to tell anyone that I was able to maintain that level of focus for 10 straight hours and be thrilled. But for a moment, I felt relief, which was such improvement from the fear that I was living in previous. So you just take it like minute by minute. I felt a little better. I felt 1 or 2 minutes better for this hour, and then add another 30 seconds for the next hour. And over a period of time, you create momentum, and momentum is another word for law of attraction. And before you know it, you're on this like winning streak, and then things are coming into your environment that begin to change.
I love that. And I think it's interesting because even when you say momentum, like, momentum itself is not positive or negative. You can easily create negative momentum. But when you're focused on what you want, you're going to put yourself into that space a lot more. And it's about responding to your current situation rather than reacting. And Jim or Larry, I find it interesting, and just what you had said, Larry, it kind of makes sense that way. But when I've read different psychology reviews and stuff, they say that the majority of us are, and again, I'm not an always or never person, the majority of us are hardwired for negativity because that's survival mode. Like, you got to be paying attention to what's around you just to survive. And then some people were actually born with more of a positive perspective. And I'm just curious as to what you think. I know, Jim, before we went live, you were talking about this program that you're involved with right now, both of you, about brain things. And I'm just curious what you think about I don't even know if I want to call it DNA, but the natural response for the majority of people is to be leery and wary and come from that negative energy more.
Can I take that, Larry? Do you mind? So I have a belief that what you think about, you bring about. And I think a lot of us are, and let me just say what I'm about to say is not a popular stance. I get a lot of heat for what I'm about to say. But we are all brought up with certain conditions, certain ways of thinking. And I truly, in my heart and soul, feel for those that don't know why they feel the way that they feel. But we did an interview with a young lady, and her tagline in life is, not everybody is lucky enough to have been traded for sex by their own mother. And she takes extreme ownership. And you can take whatever condition that you're faced with, and you can make it your reason why, or you can make it your reason why not. And the second that you can say, I'm this way because, and you have that answer, the only answer becomes, I choose to stay this way. So if you know what's ailing you, if you know what's troubling you, then it's a conscious choice to stay there. So pre-wired to negativity, I think so, but you gotta buy into that, right? So it's how you're brought up, it's what you're exposed to, but at some point your natural character has to kick in, and that's not a dig on anyone, but you also have to realize that things don't happen to you; they happen because of you. A lot. The situation that you're in, no matter what it is, you have to take ownership to the terrible, tragic things that happen to you. You chose to be in the place at that time that it happened. And that's not meaning that somebody didn't do something bad to you. It means that you can't control what they did. So you have to internalize that. You have to take accountability for where you are and what has happened, because that's the only way you can heal.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
It does make sense, but I guess what I was thinking is some people just seem to have an innate ability to find the why this happened more than the why not. And some people choose not to find it at all. And then some people, it just takes more work to get to that place. So I was just curious as far as do you think it's how we're brought up? Is it nature versus nurture, or is it a little bit of both on how people choose to see their reality?
For me, it's a little bit of both. You asked about the program we're doing. We're doing a program called brain mapping, which has been around since the 50s. We're in Indianapolis on location, so to speak, seeing a specialist. He's one of 300 guys in the world that do the type of training that he does. So I'm just looking for the best version of me that I can find. And what he does is he takes a picture of your brain from the inside out and how the signals go, and then he helps to rewire them back to the way that is most effective for you. But I think guys like Larry, and honestly, he was the mentor that got me in this line of thinking, but guys like Larry seem to have things always work out. And I think things always work out because he expects them to, unless it's technology, and then he expects them not to. But he expects things to work out, and they do. And a lot of it comes down to what's his interpretation of working out, right? Like if something terrible happens, there's usually something good. I have a philosophy called mastering the spin. And it means that, at some point, you're going to realize something good came of something bad. So you just got to slow down and take a minute and focus on finding that right away, because the second you can identify it, the healing process begins.
Yeah.
And there's been tragic things that happen to people. So I'm not suggesting that the loss of someone you love isn't devastating, or the loss of a job or a loss of a home or a loss of whatever is not devastating. What I'm saying is it's going to happen no matter what. So time truly does heal all wounds. So shorten your time. Think about finding that good in the bad right now. And it isn't going to make it hurt less. It's just going to make it hurt for less time.
Right. And I think it's like that because I tell people, as far as when you can find the gratitude in it, often we go through a challenge and we find the gratitude after we're through. It's like, oh, I see why that happened. But it's when you can find the gratitude when you're in the challenge, it does lessen the impact. I mean, you're still going to go through it, like a loss of a job or a family member or whatever. It's still happening. But when you're able to find that little nugget of beauty, and I usually tend to say that we live in a beautiful and messy world. But if we focus more on the beauty and bring more love to the mess, it's going to help shift things as well. We have a lot of people saying yes and agreeing with us.
Yeah, can I share a story that reflects that? So several years back, I was smoking crack cocaine, And I knew that smoking crack cocaine wasn't good, and everybody was telling me to stop it. And I was living in Phoenix at the time, and I would go into these different neighborhoods, and I had two dealers that I dealt with. Both of them were ladies. And when I would go into the neighborhoods, I would see like all these kids on the street during school hours, and they were hungry. They didn't know where their parents were, all these different things. So while I was going through my addiction, I didn't judge myself for where I was. And at the same time, I wasn't able to spin it enough to say, oh, I'm really grateful for this. But here's what I would like to share with the folks listening is that I'm going to use the word momentum again, is that I slowed down the negative momentum of judging myself as being an awful person for smoking crack and being wrong. And I got it to like a point of neutrality where I was just able to get out of the resistance and step into the allowing. And I said to myself while I was smoking this dope that I'm just going to allow something good to come from this experience. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm just going to bet that at some point I will look back and say this was a good experience. And what happened was I developed a relationship with both moms and their kids. And eventually there came a time that my desire to help these kids was greater than my desire for the drugs. And I got sober, and I ended up adopting the kids from their mom. And those kids changed my life forever, and I changed their life forever. It was an incredible experience. And now when I look back, I absolutely say that smoking crack was the best thing that ever happened to me, because through it, I found my family, I found my children. I have amazing grandkids that I have a great relationship with. My kids are all happy. Both moms now have been sober for years and are in the kids' life. Like, I could go on and on about all the beauty that came from this. And it came from something, quote unquote, terrible.
Yeah.
But I truly believe, and this is the message that I'd like to share, that if we just can step away from judging the experience as terrible, you don't have to make it great. Just judge it as just it is. It's just a moment in time, like a cold day, and it's going to be warm again, or something like that. Just let go of the resistance and step into the allowing. I feel like God or the universe or whatever is going to bring in all this beauty into you. You just have to step out of your way of the judgment. So that's my story and my take on that.
I love that story. And first of all, I've known you for 10 years now, I think, or close to that. And it was
Yeah.
recently that I've heard these stories. So I did not know any of that. But it's so easy to get stuck in either victim mode or unworthiness that you don't see. Like, my story isn't nearly as impactful of that one. Like Larry's is amazing. But years ago, I was working for a company. I was in management. I had a fine job. I hated every second of it. I loved the people I was working with, and I was always getting accolades and raises and all that stuff, but I truly hated my job. And shockingly, the vice president threatened to fire me over something that he said. I went on vacation and took a course that I needed for my job that they did not approve of. But I spent my own money and my own time to do it. And so he said I was being insubordinate. And I was shocked because Carol was the do gooder. She was always doing what was expected of her. Yes, sir, I'm here for that. And I was shocked. I was devastated for a weekend, crying. And then I got mad. I'm like, I have worked here for this long and you're doing that. And so a few months later, I got a new job. And I could have stayed there and I would not have started Positive Focus. I would not have gone on this. The next job led to me doing more of this kind of thing. 20 years ago, I've always been a positive person, but I did not remotely think of coaching or teaching on it. It was just the way I lived my life. So, but I was not living it that way in that particular job. And I did not realize it until that moment. I'm like, oh. And so it was not a fun experience to go through, but it absolutely led me here. So I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah, it's a great story. And I'm grateful for it too.
trying to think, because I used to do events in my home years ago, and Larry had come to some of them. So that's how we got to know each other. And although I live in Chicago, I'm from Central Illinois. I'm a huge St. Louis Cardinal fan.
All right,
And
go
these
Cardinals.
two gentlemen are from St. Louis or live in St. Louis. And I know that Larry's a big fan. I don't know where Jim stands on the baseball route, but.
Oh, he's a Cardinal fan.
Okay, good. I mean, I don't think I could have a Cubs fan.
I didn't call you names, Carol. What do you think I am, some kind of Cubs fan?
Hey, it's hard being a Cardinal fan living in Chicago, let me tell you. So,
although I was one of the few St. Louis people that was excited when the Cubs finally won.
See, my dad's been gone for years, but he would have been that too. I'm like, I was not excited for it, but I was excited for my friends who were Cubs.
Even a blind pig finds a trough once in a while.
So I know that you're doing all this, a variety of different work helping people, and the Changemakers is something I would love for you to share about. And then after that, I would love to, if you have some tips on if anybody, and again, people are loving what we're talking about. I haven't seen any questions. From Mud is Born the Lotus. I like that. It's somebody in my community because we do not see the name. So whoever is sharing that, please let me know. But to share a little bit about your Changemakers program, and then if there's some suggestions, Larry or Jim, on how to start in your own personal life, if you're going through a challenge right now, to shift it into, or I just caught your live a couple of days ago, a little bit of it, the pivot, and how to pivot out of your current experience if it's something you're not enjoying. So tell us
Jim,
about.
why don't you take the Changemakers and I'll take the second question.
Yeah, so there's a little more to share with that. I will tell you that, much like Larry, I've had tragic things that happened to me. He did a blog probably 3 weeks ago called "The Day I Decided to Take My Own Life." And
I'll find it and share it in the comments later.
Thank you. But there are these points of devastation that we all experience. I've had 2 times, and I've never shared this publicly, 2 times where I've been on the verge of ending everything. And the same thing happened each time seconds before I made the final decision. And you got to listen for the signs, and you got to take them when they come and don't question them. Just back yourself off the ledge a little bit. That I wanted to share first as I listened to Larry's story. But here's the thing on the Changemakers and how we got there and what was going on. So Larry and I owned a business in St. Louis called NextCore, and NextCore was a co-working space. And then the pandemic hit, and what you can't do during the pandemic is co-work, right? You can't, the social distancing was in place. Everybody was required to separate. And to make a short story out of a long ordeal, we ended up closing the business in September of 2019 as a physical location. And we moved it to a much smaller location, and then 6 months later shut that down and went to all virtual services that we provide. But one of our clients was a nonprofit called Revitalize, and they had a physical space in there. And at the end of 2018, Revitalize was on the verge of disbanding because they lost all their board members. And they gave notice to us that they were going to be leaving the space. And of course, I'm like, was it something we did? And they're like, no, it was something we didn't do. We didn't secure a board. So they asked us if we knew anybody that wanted to join the board. And Larry and I don't really do anything small. So the minimum requirement is 4 board members. So I went around looking, and we put 9 people on the board. So we ended up with an 11-person board. And I got into a conflict and a battle with some of the other board members on what we wanted to do. And I'm very opinionated and very strong-willed.
Also not surprising.
Right. We can do this. I don't care how big you think it is. We can do it. And at the end of 2019, we came down to a vote of who was staying and who was going from the board. And anyway, long story short, we ended up with 4 people on the board the next year, and the pandemic hits. So Larry becomes the board president, I am the vice president, and it's really up to us to figure out what's going to happen with Revitalize. And Revitalize made its purpose to showcase great things happening in the community. So going out to new buildings being built, renovations happening, great restaurants in the area. Well, you can't do any of that during a pandemic. So we made a decision to shut down Revitalize, and we were going to go out with a bang. We came up with a Changemakers series. The Changemakers series was going to highlight 15 nonprofits in and around the area that were doing things to make an impact on their community. And so the Changemaker series went off without a hitch. We're talking to our attorney about winding down the nonprofit. And I turned to Larry and I said, man, I wish there was a way to save Revitalize. And he said, well, if there's going to be a way to save Revitalize, it better happen right now. Because we had just hung up with the attorney. And he's got a computer, he's got the volume turned up, and I hear an email come into his inbox. And it was a local school saying the children were so inspired by the Changemaker series, they'd like us to come speak at their school. I mean, literally within a second of saying it better come right now. Like, I don't even think he had said now without the bling. Larry still uses AOL, but it didn't say you've got mail. So we looked at that, and then I went to the board in April and I said, we put on these two big events during the pandemic. One was called Streamathon, and it was 32 hours to raise money and support for small businesses. We raised over $100,000. And keep in mind, our business was like dying. We ended up losing $1 million on NextScore in that incarnation of what it was. But we raised $100,000 and we gave it all away. Which some people told me, why didn't you keep some of it? Well, that wasn't the point. The next event we did was the Small Business Independence Day celebration, and it was designed to raise awareness. So the first one was raise money. Second one was to raise awareness. And I went back and looked at the analytics, and between those two events, we had over 20 million exposures for the businesses and the people that we featured on those two events. And I thought, well, why don't we do it Changemakers series, and we'll do it on the same platform, and we'll see what kind of traction we can get. And everybody was like, well, that's going to be a lot of work. I said, it's fine. I got it. I'll do it. And so we grassrootsed that thing. And right when it happened, Larry got sick. Right when we started putting the process together, Larry got sick. And so I ended up doing about 85 to 90% of the interviews and putting it all together. And thank God I was close enough in proximity to him to say, hey, did that suck? Should we do it again? Or, hey, was that good? What do we do? So I got his opinion on a lot of what we did. But we put it together, and then, the big thing was to inspire changemakers, to show that people with a desire to do something can take little steps towards their action. And then the momentum, ironically enough, as we've been talking about that, will either take you where you want to go, or it will stop you in your tracks. And if it stops you in your tracks, you're faced with a choice, right? Continue, persevere, or redirect. Yeah. And all of those change makers went through really difficult things to get where they're going. So our goal was to inspire more change makers. What we didn't account for was the impact that that event would have on us. And the fact that we redirected a third of our focus of our business to Changemakers. So our business is about providing resources, support, guidance, and solutions for you, for your business, and for Changemakers. So it literally redefined who we were as a team and a company when we put that on. Did that answer your question?
It did. Thank you. And I'm just now posting your website in comments for people to learn a little bit more about what you do as well. So yeah, I had the privilege of being part of your Changemaker series. Was it last month? Time goes.
It was July.
July. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. July 27th, 28th, and 29th. It was 9 hours, 3 hours a night. It ended up being longer because, as you can tell from some of my responses, I take a while to get my point across. So sometimes the 3 hour event was 3 hours and 20 minutes, but it was great. We met some really amazing people, and those people have connected. Like the gentleman we're seeing, Kevin Butterfield, his work in the autism community, he was one of our change makers. He's who we're visiting here in Indianapolis. We partnered him with a nonprofit down in Alabama that created the largest autism center in the Southeast area, dedicated to finding cutting edge and advanced technologies to help autism patients. And those two are connected. And then Kevin Butterfield, we also connected with a guy named Clark Flatt, who founded the Jason Foundation after his son Jason committed suicide at the age of 16. And it's the largest nonprofit in the world for education in youth suicide prevention. And out of the Changemakers series, the connections that have already been born, the relationships that were built, fostering, and continue to grow today, I really kind of expected something good to happen. I just didn't know the level of what good would come from that.
Yeah, I listened to several of the interviews, and I remember those two specifically, and they were really powerful. And there was another gentleman. I mean, there were so many good interviews, but another one, and I do not remember his name, but he was a young Black man who holds a cup.
Preston Martin.
Yeah, and I just love what can you share a little bit about what his program is about? It just sounded like it would be so powerful.
Larry got really fired up about that program. So Larry, I'll let you talk about the morning sips and why it was exciting for you.
Yeah, the morning sips is just, it came from his experience as a young Black man being depressed and not feeling that he had people to talk to. So he just created an organic group on Facebook. Didn't set up a nonprofit, nothing like that. It just, again, the Changemakers is about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. We wanted to showcase people that were committed to changing their community, and show that you don't have to have a big pocketbook or, all these people behind you. You can just do it from your soul, from your spirit. So he created a program called Morning Sips, where he just gathered a group of men of color, and they would talk about everything from what it is to be a dad, or finances, or job, or relationship issues, etc. And now it's it's quite a big group that he has, and he's considering branching it out to other regions and perhaps launching a nonprofit from it. So his spirit to that just, for me, exemplified what the Changemaker is.
Yeah, I think it's so easy, especially for like sharing his experience and bringing it to other people like that, because like women are allowed to be vulnerable and talk in groups and things like that, and it's much more challenging for men to do it. So him bringing that into the community and offering that is massive. I was just so impressed with what he's done.
Can I talk about the other question you had, Carol?
Yes, you may.
If you're going through a difficult time, what might be some suggestions? So here's what I would like to offer for your consideration. If you're going through a challenging time, the first thing to realize is that wherever you are in life, wherever your current state of reality is, wherever you are, is real, but also that it's old news, meaning it's past tense, because wherever you are is the sum composite of your previous thoughts, actions, and beliefs that led up to where you are now. So even though you're living that experience is a result of everything that came before you. So understanding that concept, first and foremost, I hope provides a level of relief, because it means that what happens tomorrow doesn't have to be a result of today, and today is a result of yesterday, and you can't change yesterday. You can only change tomorrow. So I think for me, and I'm guessing for many other listeners out there, if you're going through a difficult situation, there's a level feeling of being stuck or maybe being wronged or victimized. I know when I, lost my home and everything, I was in a state of a lot of blame, a lot of anger, because I felt people didn't help me enough, whatever that story was. But understanding that where you're living is old news, that's the first step. And the second step is just not having the self-blame for where you are, and just understanding that where you are is where you are, and it's nothing more than where you are, and you don't have to attach a long story to it. And the third step would be that my desire to feel better is the most important aspect of my life right now, because I know that in all the negative, quote unquote, negative experiences that I have, I was in a state of negativity, and I was in a state of feeling bad. So your desire to feel good needs to be the most important thing. And The good news about having that desire to feel good is you can begin to feel better without changing the condition that you're in. And I refer back to the example of looking at the beautiful trees in Wisconsin during the fall season and the way they reflected on the lake. At that moment in time, I felt better because I was giving my attention to something that had enormous beauty, even though my condition of homelessness and poverty did not change. And then finally understanding that it's a process, that you don't go from feeling awful to feeling good. So for example, I was in depression. So if you're in depression, an improved feeling might be anger or revenge. It's not a great feeling, but being depressed feels powerless. Being angry, you've got some momentum. And then maybe from anger, you can move into frustration. What feels better, frustration or anger? Frustration does. So you begin to incrementally move up the emotional scale. And what happens is that momentum that we've talked about. And after a while, the momentum takes over. And the last point that I want to share is how I define the law of attraction, because I think I misunderstood it for years. And when I talk to a lot of people, I think they misunderstand it. A lot of people think the law of attraction is assertion based, meaning I'm going to shout as loud as I can to the universe, or I'm going to do as many things as I can to put it out there of what I want, hoping that I get it back. So yes, action is an important step in it, but really what the law of attraction is, it's not assertion, it's receiving. So you want to get yourself into the place where you can receive something. And when you're in a state of depression or negativity, you have so much resistance within you that even if something great came along your way, it would probably go somewhere else because you're in that state of judgment and resistance. So you want to, like I said, lessen that resistance to get into the allowing. It's much like I tell people, if you have a radio dial in your car or you have a remote control, you have, channel 2, 5, 7, and 9, they all exist. However, you can only pick up what you're tuned into at that time. So if you're tuned into channel 5, all the other ones are equally real, but because your receiver is set to channel 5, you can only get that signal that's emitting from that. So it's law of attraction's an internal job is the best way that I could share that. So
I
I
love
hope
that.
that
I love
helps
that.
someone.
Yeah, I think it absolutely will. And I love it because for me, it's about staying in awareness. Because when we're in autopilot, life is living us. And when we're aware, we're living life. And we can choose to stay in a pity party or we
Right.
can choose to feel a little bit better. And just like you said, Larry, again, I'm not an always or never person. Maybe somebody can go from depression to joy in a nanosecond. I've not witnessed it personally, nor have I experienced it personally. But there's 7 billion people out in the world, so I'm not going to say somebody couldn't do that. But generally, it's small, incremental steps, and it's a daily practice. When I'm talking about love, kindness, compassion, and peace, and encouraging people to practice that daily, I've been doing it for years, and I still have unkindness visit me. It's generally towards myself, and I catch it and I reframe it into who I want to be and how I want to show up rather than negative self talk.
Sure.
So it is about being aware of who you are, where you are, and what
Yeah.
you want.
The other good thing, and I did a blog on this, and that is the power of negative thinking. The other great thing about being in a place that you don't want is that anytime you know what you don't want, you also know more clearly what you do want.
Yeah.
So when I was living out of my car, my desire for abundance was greater than ever before in my life. When you're hungry, your desire for food is greater. When you're cold, your desire for warmth is greater. So even though you're experiencing the quote unquote other end of the stick, but at that moment in time, your desire for the other end of the stick is so much more powerful than ever before and so much more clear. And clarity is great. And so you just want to move a little bit towards the other end of the stick and say, wow, my awareness, as you said, Carol, to what I want is greater than ever before. And it's so great to have that feeling of awareness and clarity.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer in affirmations, which again is not a positive or negative. It's a statement you make about yourself, and it can be a positive one or it can be a negative one. But what you were just saying about having the desire greater than like you had a greater desire for abundance than you
Mhm.
did for your current situation. I'm curious for the viewers, like did it be like all of a sudden, like I'm homeless, I have nothing, and you're envisioning millions of dollars, or did you just want to feel warm and safe and secure? Like, I think some people go from 0 to 1,000 and don't pay attention to the steps to get them there.
Yeah, so I like for me, and everyone's different, and there's no right or wrong way. But for me, I was very um, aware of the affirmations that I use. So first of all, I was, like you said, flat broke. I also was 360 pounds because I was eating crap and I really didn't care, anyways, just so I couldn't look in the mirror and say, oh, you have a beautiful body, and I couldn't say I'm going to be a millionaire because every time I went that far out,
Hmm.
what I was really focusing on was the gap from where I was to where I wanted to be. So the affirmations were actually having a negative impact on me
Yeah.
because, like, I'd say, no, you're not, you're a fat pig, or, sure, you're going to have $1 million. So yeah, so I just went like, I just want to be, a little better. I just want to have a little more money. And I was like, I remember when I got that little, hotel room for like $30 one day. And I mean, I felt like I was at the Peninsula. I mean, honestly, like I had a bed, I had a bath, like I felt truly like I had $1 million. And
I
now it's funny because now, I stay at really nice hotels because now I have a lot of abundance. Like if I went back to that hotel, I would feel, oh my gosh, I can't believe that's the word. But at that moment in time, that hotel felt like the million. So it's not whether you have it or you don't have it because things come and go. But when you feel it, when you insert it in your body, when it's like deep inside your mind and your heart and your soul, it doesn't matter if you lose it because you can always get it back. You can always get it back. So that's where that's where the beauty of all this came for me from these situations, because I know that wherever I am is just a moment in time. I don't really give much attention to where I am because, again, where I am is old news. I give more attention to where I'm going, and I use where I am as the launching point or the pivot point to get to where I'm going. So if it's a bad place of where I am, it's really good because now my desire is great. All I got to do
Yeah.
is give more attention to the desire and less attention to the reality. Like it's all good. Like I set myself up for the win-win. And at the same time, I still have like the visits of all the other things, but those visits are great because it's like when you're driving down the road and you hit the center line bump, you kind of want to be happy that you hit the center line bump because it's just awareness to get back
Yeah.
in your lane. When you're driving down the road, do you want to put a happy face over your gas tank because you don't like the negativity of that you're running low? No, when you want to run low because it's awareness that you want to fill up. So you use all these things to your benefit, and that's what I learned, and that's what I'd love to share.
I love that. And my saying is let fear visit, just don't invite it to move in.
Perfect,
And
exactly.
Sylvia here is talking about what was it? The contrast to clarity. A good friend of mine and a mentor, he's a law of attraction trainer, Michael Lozier. He talks about like knowing that contrast is allows you to get clear about it. And
For
he
sure.
uses the process with his affirmations because he was a very large man. And so his affirmation was, I am physically fit and looking good. But he would look in the mirror and like, bullshit, no, I'm not. And so
Right.
I'm in the process of feeling physically fit. So he adds, I'm in the process of. And that's what I talk about.
Exactly.
If you can have a positive affirmation, I am physically fit, but if you immediately follow it with no, I'm not, then it's not a positive affirmation
For
for you.
sure.
So it
Yeah.
needs to feel right for you. So thank you for sharing that.
Hey, Carol, can I get a little geeky with you for just a second?
Please.
Okay, so with what Larry said, he said there is, you know what? I don't even remember what he said, but here's where I'm going with this. There is no such thing as present, in my opinion, and science backs up what I'm about to say. So I saw that Sylvia's reading The Power of Now, and so am I right now, actually. But the reality and the truth is there is no such thing as present. Every single one of us are living in the past. nothing travels faster than the speed of light, right? In fact, if the sun blew up, it would take us 8 minutes to even know it did, because that's how long it would take for the light to get to us. So you know this to be true. If you put your hand on a stove, you can keep it there for a millisecond, a half a second, whatever, before it burns you, because the body can't process things. So everything we see, everything we think, everything we feel, everything we experience already happened. So there is no present. We can't process the present. So we're all living in the past. And with that, you need to be aware of what's happening, but you need to be focused on the future and focus on the change, because whatever pain you're feeling, you already went through it. It already happened to you, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, psychological, the pain already happened. You're processing it now, and you're realizing it from what happened in the past. So it's really interesting if you realize that no matter what, you've already gone through it. So you're already past the pain point, and now you can focus on
You're just
moving
reliving
forward.
it at that point.
Exactly. So you can choose to relive it and go, ow, it still hurts. And maybe it does, but every inkling of pain that you feel already happened. It's just past tense. You just need to realize where you're going.
I'm going to need to sit with that one for a while. I have not heard that explanation before, but it does make sense. So how do you move through it? Like, you know, it's a past experience, but you are in the moment of feeling that pain. What are some steps that you do to move forward into?
And it's so true. So no matter what happened, I wrote a story. My dog was poisoned, and actually both my dogs were poisoned by someone, and one of them died on the way to the animal emergency room. But so I tried to find the lesson in that, and I tried to find the lesson right away. And her name was Rosie. She was just a shit disturber, if I can be very honest. She got into everything. And Larry and I were talking, you know, she got into something that was poisonous, and she died living how she wanted to live. So she died eating things that she shouldn't eat, but she was just her, right? And we had 6 months with her. She was just a puppy. She was, I mean, it was like tragic, her death. But the reality was she lived a great life in those 6 months, and she could have been in a shelter or in a cage or whatever.
Right.
So I think about the good parts that we had, and I focus on those. And it doesn't look human, right? Doesn't mean I didn't cry. I did. It was awful. It hurt my feelings. Like my kids were devastated. But the reality was we had those memories. That dog, like, I couldn't get away from her. She got into bed with me, and she's like, I would wake up on 1/10 of the bed because she had 9/10 of the bed, or moreover, wanted to be that close to me. So she got to live a life of enjoyment in the short time that we had her. And I focus on those memories. And now I smile every time I think of Rosie. And every once in a while, I get sad because she's gone. But it doesn't mean I don't have those great memories of her while she was here. So I just try and focus on what those things are in the time when the pain is most real. Even though it's past tense, it still feels pretty real. Mm-hmm. So I think about those good things that I know I will eventually get to. And the more I think about, the more my energy flows to that. And those become the prevalent thoughts. So it's just a matter of, let me see if I can get my hands in here. It's just a matter of replacing the negative thoughts with the positive thoughts. And you can make a conscious decision to do that. And Jim Rohn says, who can do that? And then he says, anybody, right? So anybody can do it. You just have to put your intent to it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's also like just in grief itself, like, I mean, there's a process of it showing that deep love kind of thing, but there's beauty in it. And I think so many people, myself included, my mom passed away 2.5 years ago. And originally it was pure focus on her being gone rather than focusing on the 82 years I had with her. So it's really easy to focus on what you don't have more than focusing on what you do have or what you did have. And she's also
I was not laughing at what you said. I was laughing at what Crystal wrote.
Oh, I knew you weren't laughing at me. I did not know what you were laughing at, but I knew you were not laughing at me. But I often use her as one of my examples of gratitude for her last few years. She was on oxygen to stay alive. The woman never complained. She still had quality life, but needed medical intervention. I have never once until that time thought of how grateful I am that I breathe on my own. So when you're going through a really hard time in your life, go back to those moments of things like, I don't get up in the morning and say, okay, start breathing and start my heart beating. And so go back to those things. I have personally never been homeless. So I am grateful for having a warm bed to sleep in, even when things are hard. But so go to the things that we often take for granted that are there for each one of us. It just, depending on where you are in your life, it depends on how far down you need to go. But some people need medical intervention for their hearts to beat properly and for their lungs to work properly. So if you're not one of them, have gratitude. And if you are one of them, have gratitude that there's medical assistance to help you continue. And what were you laughing about at Crystal? I missed what she said.
She said, that reminds me of my dog. She loves to eat my underwear. One of these days I may lose her because of her choice, but she'd die consuming that which she loved.
A very, very good point. Well, gentlemen, is there anything else you would like to share or discuss? And definitely, if you've got programs or something that you want people to know about, make sure to send them to where they need to go to find more. But let me know what your last thoughts are on
Jim.
Change making.
Yeah, so for me, one of the things that has been a struggle, and my life has completely changed from where I was 12 or 15 years ago to where I am today. Everything I look at, the way I look at it is different. And those were conscious decisions that I made. And what I've really struggled with, and I think Larry has too, is when people come to me and say, well, how does that happen? Or how do you bounce back? Or how do you do that? The answer was in the beginning, and this is my lesson for everybody here, is I don't know. I just did. I focused on things that made me feel better. Larry said that. And it's okay to not know. So let me share that with you first. What Larry and I have spent the last year doing, and if I can be like brutally honest, it's been a great year, and it's been a tough year at the same time, because we were trying to take things that we just did and break them down into something that was quantifiable for someone else. And we put together a couple of things. We had to name everything because we didn't really have a name for it. It was just how we thought. So like mastering the spin, the art of the pivot, the shifted reality. In the last 3 years, we've named those things. And there's other ones that we're still struggling to find a name for so that we can explain to people what it is. So we can take what we've learned and what we've gone through and grown through and make it available to someone else. But a couple of the things that we have gotten a name down is the Focus 10. And the Focus 10 breaks your life and or your business. There's two versions. There's one for your life, one for your business, into 3 critical areas. And within those are 10 focus points. And I believe one of the biggest things, and I can't remember who said it, it may have been Jeff Bezos. It was some multi-quadrillionaire, right, that came out and said that the most devastating thing ever said in the English language is work-life balance. And the reason why is because it doesn't exist. I've never known anyone that's uber successful that had work-life balance. I've also never known anyone that's really happy that had work-life balance. What they did is they took the moments that make up a lifetime and they got really, really, really focused on those moments and they enjoyed them. Larry, I'm sure you'll be able to share this afterwards, but a happy life is really whatever, you know where I'm going. You'll share that thought. But the Focus 10, we're doing a workshop on the 23rd, and I'm going to just tell you guys, we don't even have the material written for it yet. And the reason why we don't have the material written for it is because we struggled to find the words to describe what it was. We just came up with the breakdown on it, but it is the 10 areas in your life that you have to take a moment and pay attention to make sure that you can live your best life. And we're excited to break that down, and we're going to fumble through it on the 23rd. And I'm just being real with you guys. You don't have to have it all figured out to start. Just start and you'll figure it out. Start focusing on those little things that are good. But be on that workshop on the 23rd. It's completely free. We haven't charged for any single thing that we've done in 2021. Not one event, not one workshop, not one anything. We've made it all available free. And I encourage you to be on that. But Larry, what's your thought? What's that statement?
So that quote is, a happy life is just a string of happy moments, but most people miss the happy life. Wait, no, that's not the quote. Wait. Happy life is just a string of happy moments, but most people miss the happy moments because they're so busy trying to find the happy life.
Right. I love
So
that.
it's just moment to moment to moment. Find that happy life. So you can visit us at thejimandlarryteam.com and find out more about our philosophies, the events, workshops, and more. And thank you, Carol, for having us.
Thanks for joining. It was a pleasure to have you, and hopefully you'll come back again. And
For sure.
I appreciate both of you. As far as I'm glad to, I've known, again, Larry, there were several years that I had lost contact with you, but I've known you for many years. And Jim is a newbie in my life, but has already had influence. So I'm grateful for both of you on who you are and what you do in the world. And
Thanks,
thank
Carol.
you for joining me. And everyone, thank you for joining us. And I will be back. I'm here Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays live. Monday, we'll be talking about the word positive because it's apparently the day of positivity that started in 2003 that I didn't know about until today. Tuesday, I'm having Paul Zavagno on, and he talks about the work of Byron Katie, inquiring on your stressful thoughts. I don't know what I'll be talking about. Oh, I do know what I'm talking about next Thursday. And then Shauna Fisher will be joining us for animal communication. So if you have an animal alive or that has crossed the Rainbow Bridge and you'd like to get a message from them, join me on a week from today on that. And thank you for joining us today. I've posted Larry and Jim's website. And
yeah, actually, it's the jimandlarryteam.com, not Jim and Larry.
I did just post it wrong, didn't I? I posted it correctly the first time, but I will
You
go
did.
back in and fix that.
Thank you.
And I think you posted the Eventbrite for your webinar too in there. Okay,
I
excellent.
did, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So everyone, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And remember, you matter. You matter to me, you matter to the world, and most importantly, you matter to you. So we'll talk soon. Have a great day. Think about the changes that you can make in your life to add a little bit more love, kindness, compassion, and peace to your world. Because I promise you, when you add it to yourself, you're adding it to those around you. So take care and have a great day, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, guys, for joining.
Thank you. Thanks.